My name is Charles Davidson. I am a first father outreach, community outreach navigator. I've been with First Fathers for since 2015, 72 years. Long time. Okay, yeah, so 72 years ago I was a baby. I was learning how to crawl, but it was a lot different. I know that, you know, 'cause my grandmother, mother tells me what was happening and all that. But it's a lot different, but I know we were still, people of color were still oppressed people. Same today, you know, history repeats itself. Could it be changed? Yeah, it could be changed. You know, a lot of people that did it is not here no more. You know, and there's still. I tell you, when I was 15, 16, I was out here protesting in the street with one of the community navigators, community. He was doing the same thing he's doing right now, you know, First Fathers, protesting about different things that ain't happening in the community. U of I was one of them. You know, they wouldn't hire people. They wouldn't hire people of color as fast as they should have been. So we was protesting about that. You know, it just keep going around. Well, it only started when I was a teenager because, you know, I didn't, growing up, you know, up until a teenager. I think I left home, I went to the streets when I was about 13. You know, that was a big experience, you know. I was one of those old, every time you see me, I'm smiling. That changed real quick, you know, when I got to hanging around, you know. People act like they didn't want nobody around and smiling all the time, you know. So, yeah, used to get around people and they jump on me, throw me down, all that. They weren't really trying to hurt me, but they were just trying to change my attitude. And after a couple of years, they did change it. And they didn't like it, you know. I turned from a little kid to a gorilla. They didn't like that change. But that's how I came up, you know. And I think around 15, when I was 15 years old, I met this guy, John Lee Johnson. You will hear of him, you know. He was in the community, like he's the same guy I'm talking about that was in the community, trying to make changes in the community. And he did a lot of stuff in the community, you know, he got houses built for people, had banks, approved housing and financed housing for people. But they wasn't Habitat housing. Habitat does a great job, but he got a community built up, you know, on the ground. Tore down old houses, all type of stuff that people do. Then being out in the street, well, when the riots and stuff like that came through, and I'm talking about Black Panther Party and all that started, you know. So we started us a party. Matter of fact, John Lee Johnson was started. We didn't have a name, but the media wanted to know our name. We said we don't have a name, so they named us the Black Blanks, you know. And then there was another group in the community that didn't like us, you know, so they started shooting at us and stuff like that. We didn't even own a gun. So now we got a name, the Black Revolutionary Party, you know. So, like I said, we didn't even have a gun. And they think the gun violence here is bad. Back in the 60s, it was real bad. We just didn't have the homicides that they got now. You know, but this is nationwide about the homicide. So yeah, when I was 18, actually I was 17, I ended up in prison. I was 17, they kept me in the county jail until I got 18 so they could send me to prison. They gave, you know, the whole law, they would give you the minimum and the max. So they gave me, it was a hard robbery. And they gave me 2 to 10 years. I got out in 18 months. Got out, changed my life and everything, and ran back into the same thing. But I didn't go to prison that time. I was left town for a while. Came back, got a job driving mass transit, MTD bus. And man, it's been a journey. Neighborhood looks a lot better than it used to look, you know. But we still got a long way to go. You know, of course, you got all the homicides going on now. You got people scared to even come out. You got teenagers even scared to come out. They don't even want to go nowhere, you know. And then you got the ones that do come out. Everybody's got a gun. And they're not the ones out here shooting at people or killing people. They got guns because they're trying to protect themselves. You know, nobody wants to die, right? But and then that's what I do in the community. You know, I ask people questions when I go to events, and plus I got like 100 relatives around here, a whole bunch of nieces and great nephews. And I ask them questions about the gun violence. Why is it happening? And they can, most of it's retaliation. You know, and then you got a lot of people just going around shooting guns at people. You know, but how do we fix it? You know, that's up to the police. You know, police been doing a pretty good job lately. You know, and a lot of people talk about defining the police. I don't think that's a good thing. Who you gonna call? You know, you know. You just got to keep up with it. You got to get rid of the bad police, keep the good, train them how to interact with these young people. You know, not to just throw them out and kill them or nothing like that. They need training too, but you need to get rid of the bad ones. And I don't think by the way things are going now that they're going to be able to arrest their way out of it. But they're going to have to stay on top of it. Now I'm hoping that it just goes away. But do you have faith? Do you believe there's a God? You do? I think it's if you go into Revelations, you know, you'll see it happen. It's supposed to happen like this, you know. There's so many people that turn against God, you know, that they don't even believe in God. So this is where Satan comes in. And a lot of people, my views ain't necessarily everybody else's views, but I'm like a watcher. You know, I watch things. And this is what actually is happening, you know, because it's all over the world, really. And where it ain't in the world, if anybody's not in the world, you got all type of storms and earthquakes and all type of stuff going on. Everybody's feeling some type of heat. I know that'd probably be a lot heavy for a lot of people, even the churches. You know, I keep up with the churches too. They're not even. All the churches are different. One saying this thing, and one saying another. You know, it's just a different thing, man. I mean, it's weird out here. You know, we got to work on it. Yeah, so when I have presentations, I ask people about, you know, how they feel about what's happening in the community and everything. You know, first thing, and I ask them what do they think would be better, what they think that we can do to make it better. You know, and they all say the same thing. You know, they say put up more cameras and more police presence. And every last one of them say that. And that's because they're scared. They just don't know what's really going on. You know, if you talk about, it's like I've got to talk about people, churchgoers, they're going to tell you the same thing I just told you, even though they can't do anything about it. The gun violence is here for a while, to stay for a while. And then a lot of people think it has something to do with the pandemic. I don't know about that either. So, you know, gun violence is something we're going to have to go about day to day. hoping that it'll change. And you see, there's been an uptick in it ever since the weather changed. There's people going around shooting. I stopped a couple young men down to the terminal because, you know, I go on the street and try to find them. You can't find nobody walking around the street. So I go down there at the bus terminal and pull a couple of them to the side. And while they talking, you know, I had to get next to them first, you know, because you can say, hey man, I can holler. They're going to keep walking on you. So you finally corner them and say, no, I just want to talk about, you know, how do you feel about the gun rights or whatever. They're talking to me, but they study looking around, you know, they're scared, you know. You know, they ready to run at any different sound or anything, you know. And every last one of them that I talk to, women, girls, men, they do the same thing. You know, it's got everybody scared. And that's the biggest thing. That's how the impact is scared. Some of them, they don't do what they used to do. Go out to the park and play basketball or whatever. Join different events and stuff like that. They just don't do it. You know, there's always been gun violence. The homicides is what changed the narrative in it, you know. And like I was saying, most of it's been retaliation. A lot of it's been retaliation. And then it's still a part of, you know, people bumping into each other, stuff like that. And, you know, disrespecting and all that disrespecting. And you might lose your life over it. Even the last year, this year, beginning of this year, women had jumped into the scenario too. You know, they didn't got women. I think there's a couple of homicides. One woman stabbed someone, and I know one killed. So yeah, women jumped in it too. They're not taking nothing off no man or no woman or nothing. But like I say, everybody carries a gun now, and they will pull it out and shoot you. They don't care about catching a case. You know? It's just crazy. My brother was assassinated in the streets in 2017. That's when the gun violence really started getting heavy. Then, you know, my brother was 54 years old. A little short. He's like this tall, 54 years old. Rode a bicycle around town and everything, working and everything. But a guy seen him in the street and pulled up, jumped out of the car, and walked over to him and shot him in the head, stood over and put a couple more bullets in him. The reason I know exactly what's happening because they had it in court when I went to court, and they just went to court this year, and that happened in 2017. And they showed the guy shooting like that. Worst thing I ever seen because of my brother, you know. But that's how I've been infected. And a couple of guys in Gomad that got killed also in our program. You know, but you can't prevent it. You know, if you're going out in the street, there's a chance, man. If you're going around other people, there's a chance that you just might catch a bullet. And I hate it. I hate what's happening in Ukraine. I pray on that every day. You know, I just hate violence. You know? Even though I came up doing crazy stuff, I guess when you get older, you know, your mind is fully developed, and you just hate stupid stuff. You know, I hate violence. You know, I don't want to see nobody get hurt. You know? It's just crazy. Heaven. You know, that's what it is. Heaven. You know? Oh man, that would be great. I think there's I think in Paris over there they don't sell guns or whatever. One of those countries over there don't sell guns, but they be having knife fights, you know. So violence is just there's bodies everywhere, no matter what, you know. That's one of the main things we do, you know, community resources. And that's part of my job also, going to the events out here in the community events, and finding out all the new resources that we have. And we also stay on top of, First Father's mission is to build communities through re-entry. So we help the people coming out of the Department of Correction. We also got a transitional house for people who don't have a place to parole to. You know, we help them. The resources, we help them with every resource that they need, you know, whatever they need. So. And we go out in the community anytime a new resource, somebody comes with new resources, we collect them all together. We can use them, you know. And like I say, we started out being just dealing with people coming out of the Department of Corrections, you know, former felons, you know. So, you know, and we seen that there was so much other stuff going on in the community. We wasn't going to get too far, so we had to start doing other things in the community. That's when we came up with the Go Mad program, going into the community, dealing with the people most infected with gun violence and all that, and showing them there's a better way, you know, teaching trades and things like that. You know. And that's what really needed, because they got to be re-educated. They was educated like I was in the streets, you know, stealing or whatever. You know, you got to eat, you know, make fast money. Most of them, like, you know, want to make fast money, selling drugs and stuff like that. They need to be re-educated. There's a better way. We was going around to the, you know, talking to the major companies, talking to the HRs to work with us. You know, these people coming out of the Department of Correction, you know, they need a job. Are you going to give them a job? They had, on the application, they had part of on the application asked you, have you ever been incarcerated, or you're a felon or whatever. So we lobbied against that there. They did change it. They changed it, but they still check, you know. And a lot of things that we can do, a lot of ordinances around here that we can do to help people coming out of the Department of Corrections, like housing or whatever. You know, they had an ordinance that landlords did not have to rent to a formerly incarcerated person for 5 years after you've been out. So we kind of got that down to 2 years, you know. So next up, we're going to get it eliminated altogether. So U of I hires a lot of people now. You know, it's kind of hard to get there. You really got to have been a straight and narrow person, never been arrested or something like that. You can get there quick. Other than that, you're gonna need some type of, say, a family member or a friend to bring you in there. So I eventually got hired out there at one of the U of I's sub places. You know, they do the janitorial work, but they didn't run the business like I forgot the name. Level Center. I used to work at Level Center with it. And when I got in there, somebody that already worked there got me a job. But the U of I wasn't the one that was hiring people. The building was hiring people. That's how I got it. But when I went to U of I to get employed by them, they shot me down, even though I was working for them there, really, you know. But they shot me down, told me to wait about 5 more years for another application. But U of I came a long way as far as hiring people of color, because I know a lot of people that work there. Yeah, we can always talk about it. Come talk about it. You know, tell us how you feel about things. Or, if you need any type of information on what we doing. Yeah, there's always. I work with this one lady. She was an exchange student. It's been a few years ago, and it was the time that there's one student that got kidnapped off the street, and the guy killed her. So she came down to our center down there and started volunteering. I would make sure that she got back to the campus safely, you know. And we was friends, you know. And right now, she was from Paris. She lived in Paris. Right now, she's still in law school, but she's already in a firm, a law firm already over there. Yeah. So she knew what we was doing, and she took me back to the campus, and then she brought other people in, volunteer also. So you know, that's a good thing. That's really how we had to work this thing. Everybody got to pitch in on this. What's happening in the community, whatever. Yeah, you know, I think that when students come here, they need to know exactly what. No matter where you go, you need to know what's happening in the community. It'd be a good thing to, you know, you can always come to First Followers, and you know, and we can tell you exactly where to go and where not to go. You know, you just that keep you out of trouble. You know, we can help you and you can help us.